step was translating the real world environment that this had happened into a graphic novel for kids. So, for example, the real incident took place in Kashmir. We used to play near a place nearby. It was a construction site. Not that I advise anyone to play on construction sites. They're pretty hazardous, but we used to. And there were some rebars there, reinforced bars of iron that had been dumped and just left there. They formed a massive mountain of jumbled iron. And we used to like climbing on that. Over time, they warped and some grass grew under it. And that's where all kind of wildlife would live. There was a little stream. When it rained, the iron collected the water and dripped down. It made for a nice swamp. There was a little stream coming out from it. So this is actually a construction site. That's pretty dirty, but because there's grass and greenery that's come up around it, it became an exciting place for us to play. Translating that into the story, it becomes the Iron Heights that the frogs live nearby. So that's what they're talking about. And because there's so many iron bars to perch on, you'd often find dragonflies sitting there, which is what we used to chase. The translation of that with Neha and me, there are multiple drawings where you can see that we've tried to create the Iron Heights. You can have a look at the first cut of that, and then you can have a look at the colorized version. And if you look closely, you'll see that it's scrap metal. So it was about looking at it from a different perspective and seeing how a group of frogs would call it home. Because it's damp, it's wet, there's lots of insects, it's green, it's a perfect environment. And I thought that was a very good environmentally friendly take on it as well, because this is scrap metal that's been turned into a home for a lot of animals. It was its own ecosystem. And I really liked that. The rest of the environment created was very similar. It was a large open field. And that's where we would have all our misadventures, where we would build the rocket. Because, if something explodes in a field, then not a lot can go wrong. The worst that can happen is that you could get hurt, but we're not likely to hit someone else or break a window or potentially set fire to a nearby house because the rocket went astray. So the next part of that was translating that into the book. You can see the original drawings where we've shown the rocket flying up, the character art and the line art. These were the first iterations. So this is what we originally wanted the story to look like. And then Neha created a final line art, which we then colorized. So I think that to look at the world differently from the perspective of a frog or a child, you have to live that world and kind of explore it from their perspective. So as a normal human being, you look at an object and see a mundane, basic thing. Look at it from the view of a child. How does it change? For example, the Iron Heights. They weren't the Iron Height. They weren't a pile of scrap metal anymore. It was something that you could climb. There used to be a show on TV. I'm not sure if anyone remembers. It was called Ultimate Survivor or something similar, where there was this mountain that the contestants had to climb in the end. It was called the Great Aggro Crag, and that was our Aggro Crag. So we used to compete to climb first to the top. And during that process, we'd often find ourselves facing spiders and other weird wildlife. And I think that's part of what this is about as well. To write a kid's story, you have to look at something simple and convert it into something that they would consider an adventure. A large part of this story actually does involve simply translating what we already did into a slightly more dynamic version of it. You can see the evolution of the art, and you can see the iterations that Neha and I went to before we actually created the story. I think my advice to everyone or anyone trying to write a kid's book is to remember what they used to feel like when they were kids. What did you watch on TV and how did you translate it? Because or what did you read about? Because the most basic game every kid likes to play is Let's Pretend. So, that stick that you're holding up, that's not a stick, that's the Excalibur sword. And if you can dig it out of the ground, you're now the king of the world. And that's a perspective that every writer should take when they're going to attempt to write children's book, really, because that's the first step. Look, for more advice and for more insights into this, go check out the book and tell me what you think by leaving a review. It's available on Amazon, as I mentioned before, and I'd really appreciate if you just had a look. You'll be able to see the stuff that I was talking about in its different iterations, in the raw form presented here, and in the finished version there. Thank you for watching the video, and I'm really glad you stayed for this. It's been great. I'll see you again next time.